let's talk dark academia. Hello everyone, my name is Lexi and welcome back to my channel. Are you ready to talk about some dark academia? Dark academia is one of those things that has become super big in pop culture recently. It is a mood, it is an aesthetic, it is a way of life. There are so many things about dark academia that I absolutely love. One being the fashion. Sign me up for muted colors and tweed jackets, you know what I'm saying? Like any day of the week. But also dark academia is amazing because it has the biggest emphasis on things that I love, like literature, books, the arts, everything cool that my nerdy introverted self is obsessed with. It also has a lot of really fun dark themes like secret societies and beautiful crumbling architecture. Everything about dark academia is very intriguing for me to both watch and to read about. And so I really wanted to do kind of a secret TBR and my take on dark academia. But first, let's do like an official definition. So my very first disclaimer is that dark academia's definition is gonna vary person to person because it is a relatively new term. However, the way I sort of decipher dark academia is in two camps. It is dark academia, the genre, and then dark academia as the aesthetic. For the purpose of this vlog, I am focusing on dark academia as a genre. So dark academia as a genre means that we are reading specifically about things that happen in a school, probably going to be a prestigious school, either an Ivy League or a boarding school or a private university, most likely going to be also in New England. Dark academia as a genre is also going to explore topics that are darker, so we might discuss murder. Typically, they always usually revolve around a pretentious group of friends as well. Sometimes it's a clique, sometimes it's a secret society, sometimes it's a cult. Sometimes our main protagonist is beloved by them, and other times they are ostracized or excluded from this group. And also typically, I would go as far as to say that most of these pretentious friend groups are pretty toxic. Dark academia is also very similar to Gothic literature in the sense that it really focuses on atmosphere almost more than anything. I would also say that this is really similar to Gothic literature in the sense that it typically leaves the reader feeling uneasy even after everything has concluded. Dark academia also reflects on things that I love. There's a huge emphasis for the characters for specifically a love of learning. The subject can be different, but typically it includes things like the humanities, philosophy, English, literature, art, writing. I have to tell you, like, I just love it. But okay, so that is sort of like the intro for dark academia. Let me go ahead and show you my TBR. So I ended up reading 5 books for this secret TBR project over the course of a couple different months. The very first book that I ended up reading was Catherine House, and this is by Elisabeth Thomas. So in this particular book, we are following Inez, and Inez has just been accepted into this very elite and very mysterious school called Catherine House. Catherine House is famous for producing some of the most successful people in a multitude of fields. So whether you graduate and you become a writer or an artist or a musician or a scientist, you're pretty much guaranteed success if you graduate from this place. The flip side to that, however, is that no one knows what happens at Catherine House. And the reason no one knows what happens at Catherine House is because it is very hard to get into and very mysterious. And students who get into Catherine House have to promise to sign away 3 years of their life, meaning they're not gonna talk to anybody on the outside of Catherine House for 3 years. Once Inez is here, she realizes that a lot of dark stuff is actually happening. Next we have If We Were Villains, and this is by M.L. Rio. This particular book has a very similar structure to The Secret History by Donna Tartt in the sense that we are told right away that a murder has taken place. We're following Oliver's perspective, who has just spent the last 10 years in jail for a murder that he committed. When he gets out of jail, he talks to the detective who asks him what really happened, and Oliver recounts all of the things that happened while he was going to school. So while in school, Oliver is going to this very pretentious New England school where he is studying Shakespeare with all of his friends. And we are following what happened to lead up to a murder. The next one here is Bunny, and this is by Mona Awad. So this particular book is gonna follow Samantha, who is an MFA student in a prestigious New England university. And in her writing MFA program, there is a group of girls and they call themselves Bunny. And Samantha cannot stand the bunnies because they talk really strange, they dress really strange, they're very exclusionary, like they exclude Samantha, I don't even know if that's a word. They exclude Samantha all of the time. And they sort of have this weird clique, secret society, possibly cult going on. And then one day, they invite Samantha. Next, we have a book that I have been meaning to read for, I don't know, a year since it came out last year, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This book follows Alex Stern, and she is accepted at Yale University. And once she is at Yale University, she essentially is sort of in charge of managing the secret societies at Yale. And then finally, we have my most anticipated book on this list, and that is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novic. This particular book is going to follow our main protagonist, Elle, at her dark academia style school. And at her school, it is like a magic school where she is learning how to conduct spells, hexes, things like that, because she is a wizard. But this is very unlike Harry Potter in the sense that this school is very, very dark and very, very scary. So there you have it. Those are all of the books that I end up reading. Let's go ahead and start with the very first book, which is Catherine House. Hello and welcome to day one of my Dark Academia reading secret TBR vlog. So today we are starting Catherine House and I am so incredibly excited to read this. I've heard that this kind of feels a little bit like a ghost story, which I am always super, super into. So I think it's gonna be really fun. But also today is going to be like, in addition to reading Dark Academia, an academic day in general, because I have a lot of things to do for grad school. I have quite a few things that I'd like to get ahead of before they are due. So I'm actually gonna do a study session with some of my friends. That is something that I highly recommend, by the way, because I know a lot of people are not going to school this semester because of COVID. If you find that you cannot focus, I highly recommend asking a couple of your friends to do online study sessions with you. It's really, really fun. What ends up happening is I do them all the time with my friend Soleil, who's also in school. We do typical like study sprints where we study for about 20 to sometimes 35 minutes without talking, without doing anything. But it's like she's almost my accountability person, because like I have her up on FaceTime right next to me and like I can see she's working and she can see if I'm working. And then I lock my phone using something called the Forest app, which is an app where you try to grow trees and if you leave the app, your tree dies. And we usually both have coffee, so it's really, really fun and like really cozy. And then we usually go back to studying. And we do this typically for like 3 hours twice a week. I think what I'm going to do right now though is make myself a nice cup of coffee and then maybe start a little bit of Catherine House and then sort of prep for my study session with my friend. So let's go ahead and make ourselves a nice cup of coffee. it is later. I just did my study session with my friend. However, I've also made quite a bit of progress. I'm listening to this on audio and the audio is really good, but it's making listening to this and reading this kind of fly by. Also, sorry. It's like a lot later and my neighbors have decided to do the leaf blowers because like the leaves are dropping like crazy where I live. Anyways, so I'm on page 96 and so far I really like it. I think the best part of this book is the atmosphere. Things feel really, really tense. Things are happening that are so strange. I don't want to like give anything away. This will be a spoiler-free vlog, but there's a couple of rituals that the students are participating in and the whole time you as the audience has no idea what's happening. I don't know if it's like hypnosis or if it's like magic or if it's some weird like experiment or like I don't know what's happening and I don't really want to get into it too much because again like I want to leave this pretty spoiler free. But our main character Inez is pretty like I don't know, kind of hesitant or resistant to this thing that's happening to some of them. And so she's just been sent to this lady's office, Victoria, who is telling her like she just feels like Inez needs a reset sort of. So she's being sent to this place called the Tower where she's going to be sort of like isolated kind of. Inez is very passive in this book so far. Like she's sort of letting a lot of things happen to her, which I think is interesting, like and an interesting choice for a main character. She feels almost more like a background character. So, okay, I'll keep you updated. Hello, friends. I have finally finished Catherine House by Elisabeth Thomas. So the first thing that I will say about this book is that I highly recommend if you are going to pick this up to pick up the audio because the narrator was absolutely fantastic. Every single person, she did a great job changing the mannerisms, her intonation of how she spoke, her accents. There were quite a few things that I really enjoyed about Catherine House. I think one of the main aspects that I loved was how reminiscent this was of Gothic literature. I think that's a crossover that some dark academia books tend to have, is that they do a fantastic job really describing the architecture of the world, which really helps to make the person feel part of the narrative even more. Like, I felt like I was actually at Catherine House. I feel like I could describe to you what it was like, and I absolutely loved all of the Gothic elements that were used in describing how it looked and this like very foreboding sense all throughout the novel. Another thing that I think that Elisabeth Thomas just excelled so much at was her characterization in this book. I feel like in a lot of novels, sometimes when you have a cast of characters or like a friend group, the friends can kind of blend together and it can be kind of confusing at times who we're talking about, but that was not the case in this book. Elisabeth Thomas really, I think, showed her strength was in writing characters and her character development specifically, because I can distinctly remember every single character vividly. I could tell you all about Diego, all about Baby, all about Yaya, all about Theo, and of course all about our main protagonist Inez. Also specifically about Inez, I loved how Elisabeth Thomas really made her different than I think a lot of protagonists in dark academia are typically portrayed. In a lot of dark academia novels, the protagonist is typically like an outsider who is trying to get in, and a lot of the times they don't feel good enough or they don't feel like they measure up. But I appreciated her take on Inez, who I think is one of the most interesting main protagonists that I have ever read about. Inez just does whatever she wants, and I really, really respect that. Like, she is a party girl, she's sexy, she knows that she's beautiful, she does what she wants. If she wants to skip class, she does it. And this was so refreshing to me because this is sort of like the opposite, or I guess the foil, of a lot of main protagonists that I happen to see in a lot of academic books. Now let's go on to some of the things that I didn't particularly love about this book. I think the main thing was that it felt to me like the plot did not develop or really happen until 2/3 of the book in. I love a good slow start to a book. I love when we really develop the world and the characters and we really understand what's happening, and so I didn't mind that. And in fact, I was really enjoying the parts of the book where really nothing is happening because I enjoyed the world. However, at some point during this book, I think midway through, I just realized that I didn't know what was happening. Like, there wasn't really a set structure. It was just this group of friends going to class. And at some point, I just was wondering, well, what happens at this school? Because we've got some really interesting elements going on. We've got some really sort of like questionable things happening, but like nothing is being explored. I just don't understand the point. I wasn't expecting that because I don't think I've ever read a book like that before. When the plot is revealed, I think it is really, really interesting, and the pacing really picks up around the 2/3 mark. And I thought the last half of Catherine House was just very, very well done. I binged this book in like 2 days. I thought that it was fantastic. I thought that the narrator was amazing. And I feel like Elisabeth Thomas is a very strong writer, especially since this is her debut. I would probably give this about a 3.8. I think it's higher for me than like a 3-star or even a 3.5 star, but it's not quite a 4-star for me. So the next book I will be reading is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, and I'm very, very excited for this one. However, I won't be picking this up for a couple of days because I have to kind of focus on some like projects that are due for grad school. This will be the very next book that I pick up, and I am very excited. Good morning. So today we are starting a new book for the Dark Academia vlog, and it is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. So I'm actually about 20% into this book. I'm listening to it on audiobook while I am reading along physically, and everything about this so far is so perfect for this time of year. It's very atmospheric. I'm getting vibes from James, who is kind of like the heartthrob of this friend group, and Oliver. But at the same time, it also feels like Oliver likes one of his friends named Meredith, and James likes one of his other friends named Ren. So I don't actually know. It just seems like a big mess of people who like each other, and I'm living for the drama. I'm living for the tension. It's so good right now. They're all like best friends, but they're also kind of competing with each other for these different roles. So it's like the perfect atmosphere for people to get pissed off because they're all best friends, but only one or two of them can be like the stars of the show. I think what I'm gonna do is actually treat myself. I'm gonna go to a used bookstore, and then I think I'm gonna go to a regular bookstore, and I'm definitely going to go and read some of this at a cafe, which I'm really excited for. I have not gone and sat in at a cafe since February. Thankfully, like, you know, now we can, as long as we wear masks and as long as we social distance and stuff. And so I'm gonna make sure that it's not too busy. If it looks busy at all, I will skip the cafe part because I don't want to stress out the workers or anything. But it's just so nice to kind of feel not normal, but sort of normal. I don't know if things are ever gonna feel normal again, but it's nice to kind of try to do some of the things that I used to do in the fall that bring me joy. And so I'm really, really excited to go to a cafe and order something and read this book because it is so good. Okay, so let's go get some coffee. am back from my excursions out. I had so much fun. So I really wanted to give you an update on If We Were Villains. I'm just absolutely in love with everything about this book right now. The way that Oliver, our main protagonist, is describing his love of language and literature and art and how it feeds his soul on this primal level is so unbearably relatable. There is something about books and art that makes me so unbelievably happy that I think I would choose it over almost anything else. There's no joy that quite compares to finding a new book and falling in love with its characters and its setting. That is my update for right now. I'll see you in a little while when I am studying. Hello friends, it is the next day. I actually managed to read the entirety of If We Were Villains in a single night. I ended up finishing this entire thing around, I think, 1 or 2 in the morning, and I was absolutely and utterly like devastated, crying my eyes out. Beautiful, absolutely fantastic. One of the best books I've read by far this year, but also by far, period. One of my new favorite books of all time, 5 out of 5 star. I am just like, I wasn't expecting to love this book this amount. I was devastated when I finished the book simply because I didn't want to leave the book's world. I would also sort of say that I'm kind of sad that I read this as like the second book in this secret TBR because I don't think that any book will top this in this secret TBR list, and it's gonna be really hard to not compare all of the other books to this one. So let's go ahead and talk about If We Were Villains, and I will try really hard to not gush. As always, this will be spoiler free. I'm gonna recommend the audio for this book. A huge reason why is because a lot of this book is very heavy on Shakespeare, and a lot of this book are passages from Shakespeare that are being told to you. And it was lovely to hear them recited in different accents, intonations, and I guess voice inflections, things like that from this narrator who I thought had a fantastic narration style. I would say that this is a little bit different from The Secret History because most dark academia books center around or focus on like a pretentious group of friends. But 9 times out of 10, you're gonna really hate the friends. I loved these people. I thought that every single character was just someone who would be so lovable, except for one, obviously, and I won't say who that is. Again, just like a really quick recap of this. We're following Oliver. Oliver is recounting all of the things that led up to this murder, which is one of his classmates was murdered. And so we are kind of following along with Oliver's memories. I also fell in love with quite a few characters. There were so many people where I was like, yep, would date you. Yep, would date you. Oh wow, I would date you too, okay. If you want one of the most atmospheric reads of your life, I highly recommend this, but specifically, wait until the fall. I feel like this also does a fantastic job at romanticizing learning. There's a couple quotes that I thought were just beautiful that I really wanted to read. Enter the players. There were 7 of us, 7 bright young things with wide, precious futures ahead of us, though we saw no farther than the books in front of our faces. We were always surrounded by books and words and poetry, all the fierce passions of the world bound in leather and vellum. The clock on the mantel struck 12, and we stirred one by one like 7 statues coming to life. I just really love books. And then this is another one, it's a little bit shorter. Halloween approached like a tiger in the night, with a soft rumble of warning. All through the second half of October, the skies bruised and stormy, and Gwendolyn greeted us every morning by saying, "What dreadfully Scottish weather we're having." Highly recommend this, could not recommend this more. 5 out of 5 stars, nothing's wrong with this. There's not a single thing wrong with this, okay? This is what we call peak. Well, now that we know that that is one of the best books of all time, let's move on, I guess, to the next book, which is going to be Bunny, and this is by Mona Awad. Don't know a lot about it other than it is very weird, apparently, and that it follows an MFA student named Samantha following this kind of cult-like group at her MFA program. I will let you know as soon as I pick this up. Hi everyone! It has been a while since I have started vlogging for this particular secret TBR. I think it's been a couple of weeks, and the reason is because grad school has recently it's grad school. You know what I'm saying? Not a lot has changed. I did get a haircut though. However, I will say that I have finished 2 of the books. So I have finished Bunny by Mona Awad and A Deadly Education by Naomi Novic, which means I only have Ninth House left. And technically, I am towards the final endings of Ninth House as well. And I really wanted to like vlog and kind of fill you in and talk about this book as I read it. But first, I have to tell you about these 2, about these 2 books. So I will say, out of all of the books that I've read so far on this list, the 2 that surprised me the most were these 2 books. One was a 5-star, one was like a 2.5 star, and I just wasn't expecting it. So let's go ahead and start with the 5-star. I was not expecting to fall so madly in love with this book. So we know that this is about Samantha, and Samantha is currently trying to get her MFA from this prestigious university. And so of course we've got the dark academia vibes right off the bat. And then we've got this very mysterious secret society / clique / slightly toxic group of friends, which again meets another dark academia requirement. And it was really good. So basically Samantha is meeting with these women who are part of this like weird clique where they are like over the top cutesy with each other all of the time, and they exclude Samantha all the time. Like no one in her workshop really talks to her because they all belong to this clique. I wasn't expecting the direction that this went. First, let me just tell you that when people tell you this book gets weird, they're not kidding. There's like a part 100 pages in where heads were exploding. It's so absurd and it's so out of nowhere, and you're like, what is, like, am I high right now? I don't know. There was a part of the book, like maybe towards the middle, where I was like, you know what, this is interesting and it's not bad writing, but I don't really get it. So like, I don't really understand what the purpose of all this is. I was intrigued. I was never not intrigued, but like I was more in it for the writing style than I was for the actual plot. However, the ending changed everything for me. So I would say that this was a solid 4-star because of the writing and because of the story. But then there is a twist at the end that happens where I was like, I can't in good conscience give this anything less than 5 stars. There is so much symbolism, but there are things in here that I need to talk about, and they are very spoilery, but I need to talk about them because I think they're brilliant. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm actually going to put on the screen spoilers. And when spoilers is up, that means I'm talking about the ending of this book. If you don't care to read this book, please stay. Or if you've already read, please stay. But if you wanna just do a spoiler-free vlog, I got you. You can mute me while the word spoilers is up. And I will also link in the description a timestamp if you just wanna skip past all of the spoilers, because I want everyone to enjoy this vlog. And I'm not gonna include spoilers for any of the other books, but I really feel like I need to talk about this one. Okay, so we are going to do spoilers starting now. So if you don't know, going into this book, this clique is doing weird things. What they're doing is they're turning bunnies into men, and they're trying to create like the ultimate man, and they're doing like a collaborative effort. And at first when I was reading this, I was like, well, what does that have to do with writing? That doesn't make any sense at all. Like, I don't really understand why she would include that into her story, and I feel like it's detracting from like the whole MFA program. Okay, I was wrong. There's a lot of clues in here that like the reader is trying to pick up on, that Samantha might not be totally all there. There is a reference to a schizophrenic book, and for a little while Samantha is doubting her own sanity and wondering if she should check up on her mental health. And from the very beginning, you as the reader are starting to question Samantha's reliability as the narrator. You're starting to ask like, well, is she a reliable narrator or is she not? Because these things seem almost too wild to really be existing. So then at the end, Samantha realizes that her friend Ava was actually a swan the whole time, and she just didn't know. And that the person that all of the bunnies fall in love with is also her creation, right? And that's when it dawned on me. Samantha is not creating the perfect man. The bunnies are not trying to create the perfect man. They're creating characters. One thing that is drilled into every MFA and creative writing person's head is bring your characters to life. Make them more lifelike. I feel like it's like one page, one dimensional. They're flat. Like, you really have to try to come up with ways that they feel real. Actually, one of my very favorite quotes is from Neil Gaiman, who said that writing is sort of like a controlled madness. If you ever listen to a writer and they say things like, oh yeah, I just let my characters do whatever they want. You're writing your characters. Are you saying that you're creating people and like you're just observing them? Because that's kind of weird. And basically that's what this was. Her best friend isn't a real person. Her best friend is a swan. Much like the bunnies create men out of actual rabbits, Samantha created characters out of animals as well, but she just wasn't aware of it because her imagination was so vast. So Samantha's best friend Ava is her own character. And what's really wild is there is a character in there at the very end who always is like tagging along and like hanging out with Samantha, and Samantha asks him at the end, like, do you want to hang out later? And when she looks down, the mud answers back in his voice and says, sure, Samantha, whatever you want. Now, you could take that a lot of different ways. However, my interpretation is that she also created that character as a character. Her imagination is so wild as a writer that she has no idea that she's actually bringing her characters to life, which is where the surrealism comes in. And I also find it very fascinating because the bunnies kill their darlings. The women who are in this clique who make these men end up killing them. And I think that's also brilliant because a huge thing that we are told as creative writers is to kill your darling. But like that phrase means don't be afraid to kill off your characters. One reason why George R.R. Martin is so, I think, revered in like the writing community is because he is ruthless with his characters. But if you've never written, like, you don't know how impossibly painful that is. Samantha had to kill her darlings. She had to kill off her characters. And she didn't know it, but she was bringing her characters to life. Just like, this is an ode to people who have to do that in their writing programs. And I just feel like Mona Awad is brilliant. Like, she's absolutely brilliant. I can't believe I didn't see that they were creating characters. I really thought that they were just trying to come up with like the perfect date. And I was like, I do not get this. But they weren't. They were trying to bring their characters to life. And every time their characters were brought to life, they were one-dimensional. They were flat. And then when they would try to like talk to their characters and figure out like, what do you like? Their heads would explode because they weren't real enough. I love this book. I love it. It's a new favorite. It's a new 5-star favorite. It's not going to be for everyone, but my God, is the experimentation fantastic? Is the writing tops? And are the plot twists so brilliant? Now let's talk about a book that surprised me and disappointed me, and that was A Deadly Education by Naomi Novic. Okay, so first of all, I will say that this has a very, very high rating on Goodreads, so please take this with a grain of salt. As you just heard me gush for this one, my undergrad degree is in writing. While I'm currently getting a master's in library science, and I was a librarian, and I love being a librarian, if you were to ask me, what is your ultimate dream in life? It would be to be a writer. That is something that I have wanted since I was maybe 10 years old. So I don't ever really feel comfortable bashing a writer's work. I don't ever feel comfortable, telling you don't ever read this. Because for me, I know how difficult it is even to formulate a short story and make it so that I'm proud of it. So I value all of the time and effort and research that goes into every single book. It just so happens that not all books are for all readers. All of my favorite elements to dark academia, which are like the love of learning and this cozy, beautiful school, were missing from this book. And that's really why I didn't bond with this. So this is about Elle, and Elle is going to this boarding school for magical people. And really Naomi Novic is doing this symbolically, and she's talking a lot about poverty versus people who are super wealthy, about all of the unfair advantages. I think that she does a really fantastic job showing like the juxtaposition between the two, and how even at a university or a boarding school where things are supposed to be equal, they never are equal. And I thought that that was a really important conversation to have. However, I hated the school. The school was all about like monsters, but it's like people would die all of the time and it was no big deal. I never learned anything about what they learned. I don't know any of their subjects. I don't think we met a single teacher or professor at this school. I don't really understand the school because it's like all they do is fight monsters. But it's really weird because you have students who are dying for other students so that they have a shot to be someone after they graduate, but everyone's dying, and it felt kind of like confusing to me. I will also say that the main protagonist slash narrator, Elle, is very frustrating to me because she meets and befriends like the chosen one or the hero. I don't remember his name. He ends up saving her like again and again and again, and she just becomes more frustrated with him. She never thanks him. She never really develops a bond with him, and like she's so mean to him. I just don't really understand like what he gets out of the relationship. I know that people suck up to him because he's like the chosen one, and so he likes Elle because she's not doing that, but like she's also being straight up mean to him all of the time. And I just felt like that relationship was kind of toxic, but it wasn't bad. Like I could see how this would be people's favorite. It just wasn't my favorite. However, if you like dark academia and you like magic school settings, you might love this. So today I will be finishing up Ninth House. I've been really making my way through it, and I've got some thoughts so far. So today I will be reading Ninth House. I have been really enjoying my time reading this, and I think I'm gonna kind of fill you in a little bit more as I'm reading versus like just telling you everything at the very end. What I kind of wanna do is I kind of wanna bake something. Technically, I really wanna make Halloween Rice Krispie treats because Halloween is in like 2 days. So I think I'm gonna do that, and then I'm going to make myself probably like a second cup of coffee and finish this book up and then go to class. So that is the plan for today. But yeah, let's bake something. I might actually change though into like more of an oversized turtleneck or something because it's very cold. But yeah, okay. Those are my updates. Let's get all the ingredients and let's get to baking.
Would you stay till the morning light? Or would you follow me? Or would you let it be? If I leave tonight, we could do this right. We'll find the remedy. Or would you stay with me now till the morning light? Before you turn away, I just want you to know that I didn't throw your stuff away. Before you make up your mind that I'm nowhere to find, I'm standing right here. I know that I told you we're over. I swear that I'm sober. Just listen, I miss you. And I know that I said all these things, but now when you're with her, I can see that you miss me. Would you stay till the morning light? Or would you follow me? Or would you let it be? If I leave tonight, we could do this right. We'll find the remedy. Or would you stay with me now till the morning light? Till the morning light. Till the morning light. Till the morning light, yeah. Till the morning light. Till the morning light. Till the morning light, yeah.
Hi, it is later. I have already had several Rice Krispie treats. They were so good. They were too good. Like, if you ever want to make Rice Krispie treats, can I just say, I highly recommend like topping them with melted chocolate of some kind. I saw that on a TikTok. Game changer. I've been reading a little bit more of Ninth House and I definitely have some thoughts. Okay, I hope the setup's okay. Honestly, you are balancing on like 3 pillows and 2 books. I am currently on like 320 something. I'm really enjoying so many things about this book so far. The number one thing is that I really love secret societies. Like, I love them so much. I have a really weird fascination with like secret societies and secret clubs, things like that. And so what I'm really enjoying is I guess like the introduction to all of these secret societies. So Leigh Bardugo actually went to Yale, which I think is so fascinating. And she apparently was part of a secret society, but she isn't saying which one. But what's cool is she has used the actual secret societies at Yale and she's put them in these books and she's just given them like fake magical powers. And what's really cool is they all deal with different types of magic and their magic is so fascinating. So for example, in the very opening, Skull and Bones, they are telling the future, except instead of using tarot cards, it sounds weird, but they are opening a man up and like, they're not really doing surgery, but they're like looking at his intestines and heart and stuff. And that is what is telling the future. For anybody who has watched Neil Gaiman's Stardust, it reminded me a lot of Stardust because the 3 witches in Stardust, they like open up animals and they tell the future looking at animals like insides, which is gross. This story is different than I thought because it's actually told in 2 parts. So it's told in the fall and it's told in the winter, and something happens that divides these 2 terms. I am really loving the fall portions a lot because I'm learning a lot more about the school. About page 150, it got kind of slow. Alex is part of this 9th house and it's not really a secret society. They basically monitor the other secret societies. So in a weird way, it's kind of like they're the law of the secret societies, kind of. And it's called Leith House. Alex is learning how to basically manage these secret societies. And I love that Leigh Bardugo has put some like literature elements in here. So for example, she is considered Dante and the person who she's learning from is Virgil. That of course is from Dante's Inferno. And in here, Virgil is this really amazing character named Darlington. His name is Daniel Arlington and he is the love of my life. You know how everyone has tropes that they love and tropes that they don't like and tropes that they don't really care about. I don't like detective tropes. There's a couple of times when like there's a detective and the detective is using like very standard stereotypical like watching Law and Order stuff, like get off my case and stay the hell away from my case. I'm just not as interested in like the detective story. I'm interested in our main character Alex trying to figure out what's happening with these secret societies. But one thing that I love in dark academia is that it's all so freaking shady. It is all so shady because you've got all of these pretentious, snobby little people basically running things the way they think it should be run. And they are so removed by reality because they're all living in these academic settings that they kind of lose touch of what's right and wrong morally because they get like sucked into their own world. What's kind of bringing me out of my element here is that they're bringing the real world into this through this detective, and I'm just like not enjoying the banter between the detective, who is Detective Turner, and Alex. I would say another thing that I'm not fully loving is like Alex just as a whole. Her name is actually Galaxy and she goes by Alex. I'm not like connecting with her as much so far. I feel like in dark academia, the main protagonists, a lot of the times they rely on their wit and on their intelligence, but Alex is a girl who is extremely street smart, which I really love. But instead of outsmarting a lot of her people, I feel like she's using a lot of like brute strength. And I feel like the juxtaposition between her giving a character a headlock and the character is like this very prestigious, smart person who's using magic, it just feels like it doesn't always go sometimes. But I will say that I am absolutely obsessed with Darlington, and I love this world that Leigh Bardugo has created. It kind of sounds like I'm ragging on the book, but those are just the parts that I'm not vibing with as much. I am really liking this book a lot. I think something that I'm really enjoying that Leigh Bardugo is doing as well is she's really juxtaposing the concept of magic. We've got the idealized concept of magic, and then what magic really is in her world, which is gritty and raw and not, I don't want to say like ugly or anything, but like kind of ugly. Some of my very favorite quotes about magic are in this book, and it's from Darlington's perspective, and it's why I think I'm really loving Darlington in general. This is from Darlington's perspective, and Darlington has always been somebody who's been really, really interested in magic ever since he was a little boy. So he's talking specifically about how he picked up this book series because he thought it was going to have magic in it, but it doesn't. That he was woefully disappointed by the lack of anything magical or marvelous in his books, in this guy's books. But that had been his feeling about everything. There should be more magic. The magic he'd been promised would be found at the backs of wardrobes, under bridges, through mirrors. It was dangerous and alluring, and it did not seek to entertain. And I love that description of magic so much. So this is after kind of like this incident where Darlington is hanging out with this group of kids, and one of the kids sees a Ferris wheel or like a roller coaster in the distance, but none of the other kids can see it. And then weeks later, Darlington finds out that an old carnival burnt down. And so he's like convinced that some people can see magic. Darlington had grown older. The memory of the Lighthouse Point had grown dimmer. Lighthouse Point is like the roller coaster place. He would forget about it for weeks, sometimes months at a time, but he could never shake the thought that he was seeing only one world when there might be many. That there were lost places, maybe even lost people who might come to life for him if he just sprinted hard enough or found the right magic words. Books with their promise of enchanted doorways and secret places only made it worse. Leigh Bardugo's writing in this book is absolutely phenomenal, like 10 out of 10 for the writing. The passages are stunning within themselves, but also they're things that I can relate to because I was that kid who believed that she was gonna find Narnia. And I think that's a huge reason why books have remained so important to me is I see books as portals to other worlds, and I get so incredibly invested in them because I never found the portal to Narnia. And so I just keep searching for it in these books. Okay, so that is it for now. I am going to read a little bit longer, and then I will come and chat with you when I'm all done about the rest of this book. Hello. I finished, where's the dust jacket? I finished Ninth House. I am so tired, by the way. I have class in 20 minutes. So I'm just gonna get my final thoughts down, and then I'll like wrap up in a little bit. I loved the ending. If you were interested in some crazy plot twists that I thought were done really well, I would highly recommend picking up Ninth House. I loved the ending. I feel like the heart of this book was done well throughout because it was all about craving magic and then doing whatever it took to kind of get that magic. But I feel like it really just became a brilliant novel at the very end. The plot twists at the end were just insane. Like, they were so cool. I was really, really enjoying like the final, I would say like 100 pages of Ninth House. That was the best part of the entire book. I'm so glad that this is gonna be a series. This will definitely be a series that I continue because this was fantastic. Ninth House also had really interesting conversation, and I think a really important one specifically about, I think I'm gonna call it date rape, but like rape specifically in college. I thought that it was really well done. I really like a lot of the powerful messages. I feel like there's a lot of really good moments in here, but it is a theme throughout. So like as a trigger, if you don't like reading about that, or if that really upsets you or anything, like maybe don't pick up this book because it was a huge commentary. But I thought it was really well done, and I feel like the conversation was really necessary and important. She did a really, really great job at bringing up that topic and discussing it in a really meaningful and impactful way. So I'm excited to continue on with the series because I feel like this has so much potential, and it was a fantastic first book. It might even be higher than a 4-star. I don't think it's a 5-star, but it might be like a 4 to a 4.5-star because it was just really great. That's it for right now. I have to go to class, but I will catch you in the morning where I guess give my final thoughts on all of the books I read. Bye. Oh, hello there. It is the final wrap up for this Dark Academia vlog, and I have had so much fun. This has also taken me a lot of time. For those of you wondering, I started this back in August, like the end of August. So evidently I'm a slow reader when it comes to secret TBRs. However, I have had so much fun and I am so excited to kind of wrap this up. And I thought it might be fun to kind of give you my ranking of the books in descending order. So we're going to start with my least favorite Dark Academia book and then go all the way to my very favorite. In the 5th place is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novic. I just didn't really connect to this book, but I'm sure other people can. Yeah. In my 4th spot is Catherine House by Elisabeth Thomas. I will say that I feel like there are so many aspects of this book that are amazing. The Gothic element, the creepy element, I loved the atmosphere throughout it, and I loved the characterization. I can't wait for Elisabeth Thomas's next novel. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, I will definitely be picking it up. And I think a lot of fans of Dark Academia are going to like this. My one thing is that I would say if you don't mind things that are a little less plot heavy, you're gonna love this. But if you want something that is Dark Academia but focuses on the plot, this might not be the one for you, but I would still give it a go. Next up, we have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This one, I wasn't sure if I was going to love it or if I was going to hate it, but I ended up really liking it, especially for the ending. Again, I feel like this is very heavy for like the detective part and the murder mystery part. So if you're someone who loves mysteries, I would say that this is going to be your book above like any of the others because it's very murder mystery focused, and it actually has a lot of murder mystery tropes with detectives. I loved the commentary as well, and I really enjoyed the ending. The plot twist absolutely took me by surprise, and I really enjoyed this book. I'm also really glad that it's a series because I can't wait for the next one. Next up, this one really shocked me, was my 5-star rating of Bunny by Mona Awad. I just feel like everything about this is brilliant. I feel like it is so well done, so clever, so smart, so sexy. I don't know, everything about it was just so incredible. It was just a wild ride. I really enjoyed this. If you like books with lots of symbolism and hidden meanings, if you like really intricate plot twists and really weird stuff, like you like surrealism and all that, this is your book. This is a really good book. Solid 5-star. I absolutely loved Bunny. And then finally, my number 1 spot, and I think the book that might potentially be tied for number 1 favorite book of the entire year is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. Everything about it was gold. The characters, the relationships, the tension, the atmosphere, the plot, everything was so solid. It was so beautiful. It has everything that you could ever want in Dark Academia. I mean, you're literally getting told Shakespeare half the time. You're mixing in classics with all of this tension, with this very intricate murder mystery. I loved it. I loved it so much. And there you have it, my friends. Those are all of the books I've read for the Dark Academia reading vlog. I had so much fun doing this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any Dark Academia recommendations, please leave them below down in the comments. And also, if you are looking for a Dark Academia recommendations list, I have one coming out this Saturday, but also there are several really amazing ones out there right now that I will link down in the description. My favorite by far is Darling Desi's. I think that she did a phenomenal job with her recommendations, so please go check that one out as well. But that's it for now, book lovers. So until next time, you guys, keep your head in the clouds and your heart in a book, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye!